Minho stood in front of the massive ship window and watched the alien planet grow larger. His hands were shaking a little. This was his first real mission away from Earth, and he was going to meet an actual alien queen. He was only 28 years old and worked as a scientist studying alien life. Most days, he just looked at samples in a lab. But today was different. "Stop looking so nervous," said Commander Taiho, walking up behind him. The older man put a hand on Minho's shoulder. "This is just a routine diplomatic visit. We shake hands, share some food, and come home. Easy." Minho nodded, but his stomach still felt tight. He had read everything he could find about the Ethon people. They were tall, powerful beings who looked almost human, but had scales on their arms and backs. Their eyes were golden and could see in the dark. They had ruled a huge part of the galaxy for thousands of years, but something was wrong with them now. Their people were dying out. No babies had been born in 50 years. The ship landed with a soft bump. Minho grabbed his bag and followed Taiho and the rest of the team down the ramp. The air outside smelled like metal and flowers mixed together. Strange purple plants grew everywhere. In the distance, tall silver buildings reached toward the red sky. A group of Ethon warriors waited for them. Each one was at least 7 feet tall and wore armor that looked like it was made from black glass. They didn't smile. They just stared at the humans with those golden eyes. "Welcome to Ethan Prime," said the lead warrior. Her voice was deep and rough. "Queen Vyra is waiting." They walked through the city. Minho couldn't help but stare at everything. The Ethon people moved with perfect grace. Children played in the streets, but Minho realized they all looked young. No babies, no pregnant mothers. The extinction problem was real. The palace was enormous. Every wall was covered in carvings that told stories of great battles and ancient victories. They walked through hall after hall until they reached a throne room. And there, sitting on a throne made of crystal, was Queen Vyra. She was beautiful in a terrifying way. Her skin was pale with silver scales running down her arms. Her hair was long and white, falling past her shoulders. She wore armor that looked both elegant and deadly. But her eyes caught Minho's attention most. They were golden like all Ethon, but they looked sad and tired. "Commander Taiho of Earth," she said, standing up. "You honor us with your visit." Taiho bowed. "The honor is ours, Your Majesty. We hope to strengthen the friendship between our peoples." Vyra's eyes moved across the human group and stopped on Minho. "And who is this young one?" "This is Minho, one of our best scientists," Taiho said. "He studies different species and how they live." Vyra walked down from her throne. She moved like water, smooth and powerful. She stopped right in front of Minho. He had to look up to meet her eyes. She was at least a foot taller than him. "A scientist," she said softly. "How interesting. We could use someone with fresh eyes to look at our problems." Minho's mouth felt dry. "I would be happy to help in any way I can, Your Majesty." A small smile touched her lips. It was the first real emotion he had seen on her face. "Good. Then you will join me for the bonding ceremony tonight." "Bonding ceremony?" Minho asked. "It's an old tradition," Vyra explained. "When we meet new allies, we perform a ritual to show trust and openness. It's completely safe. Just a symbolic gesture." Taiho looked uncertain, but nodded. Of course. Minho would be honored. That night, Minho found himself in a smaller room lit by floating lights. The walls were covered in strange symbols. Vyra was there, along with an old Ethon woman in white robes. The old woman's eyes were cloudy with age, but she smiled warmly at Minho. "I am High Priestess Nira," she said. "I will guide you through this ceremony. Do not be afraid, young human. This ritual has been performed for thousands of years." Vyra stood in the center of a circle drawn on the floor. She gestured for Minho to join her. He stepped into the circle, his heart beating fast. "Give me your hand," Vera said. Minho held out his hand. Vera took it in hers. Her skin was warm and smooth where it wasn't covered in scales. Nira began chanting in the Ethan language. The words sounded like music and thunder mixed together. The old priestess took out a small knife and made a tiny cut on Vira's palm. A drop of silver blood appeared. Then she did the same to Minho. His blood was red, of course. Nira pressed their palms together. The moment their blood touched, something happened. Minho felt a surge of energy run through his body. It wasn't painful, just strange and warm. The symbols on the walls began to glow. Vera gasped, and her eyes went wide. The floating lights grew brighter and brighter until Minho had to close his eyes. Then it stopped. Everything went back to normal. Minho opened his eyes. Nira was staring at them with her mouth open. Vera was breathing hard, still holding Minho's hand. "What happened?" Minho asked. "Was that supposed to happen?" Nira's hands were shaking. "No," she whispered. "That has never happened before. The symbols, they've never glowed like that, not in all my years." Vira let go of Minho's hand and stepped back. She looked confused and maybe a little scared. "I felt something, like lightning in my blood." "We should run tests," Nira said quickly. "Both of you need to come to the medical center. Now." 30 minutes later, Minho was lying on a strange bed while Ethan doctors scanned him with devices he didn't recognize. Vera was in the next room getting the same treatment. Commander Taiho stood nearby looking worried. "What's going on?" Taiho demanded. "Is Minho in danger?" The head doctor, a tall Ethan male with gray scales, didn't answer right away. He kept looking at his screens and making small noises of surprise. Finally, he turned around. "The human is fine," he said. "But Queen Vira—" He paused and took a deep breath. "Queen Vira is pregnant." The room went completely silent. Minho sat up so fast he almost fell off the bed. "What? That's impossible. We just held hands." The doctor shook his head. "The bonding ritual is more than symbolic. It's a compatibility test. We haven't seen a positive result in 50 years. But somehow your human genetics triggered something in the Queen's biology. Your adaptability, your genetic flexibility. It's something we've lost. And now—" He smiled for the first time. "Now our Queen carries the first Ethan child in half a century." Taiho grabbed Minho's shoulder. "This is going to be a diplomatic nightmare." But all Minho could think about was the look on Vira's face when she found out. Would she be angry? Scared? Before he could process everything, the door opened. Vira walked in. She had changed out of her armor and wore simple clothes. Her hand rested on her stomach. When she saw Minho, her face broke into the biggest smile he had ever seen. "It's true," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "After all these years, a child. My child." She walked straight to Minho and took both his hands. Tears were running down her face. Our child. Minho didn't know what to say. He had come here to do science and make peace. Now he was apparently going to be a father to an alien baby. And the Queen looked so happy that he couldn't find it in himself to panic. "I know this is strange," Vira said, laughing and crying at the same time. "I know you probably want to run away. But please understand. You've given my people hope. You've given me something I thought I'd never have." She squeezed his hands. "Thank you." In that moment, looking at her tear-streaked face and genuine joy, Minho realized his life was never going to be the same again. The news spread across the galaxy in less than a day. Minho sat in his assigned room in the palace and watched the communications screen light up with messages. Earth wanted answers. The Galactic Council demanded a meeting. News reporters from 100 different planets wanted interviews. And somewhere in all that chaos, his best friend Yuna was probably freaking out. He was right. His communicator buzzed, and Yuna's face appeared on the screen. Her eyes were huge. "Minho, what did you do?" she practically shouted. "I held her hand during a ceremony," Minho said, running his fingers through his hair. "That's it. I swear that's all I did." "And now she's pregnant with your baby? An alien queen is having your baby?" Yuna looked like she wanted to laugh and scream at the same time. "Only you could go on a simple diplomatic mission and accidentally father an alien royal child." "It's not funny," Minho groaned, but Yuna was already laughing. "It's a little funny, but seriously, are you okay? What are you going to do?" Before Minho could answer, someone knocked on his door. He told Yuna he would call her back and opened the door. Ambassador Hyun stood there, looking about 20 years older than he had yesterday. The man was supposed to be retired, but Earth had called him back for this crisis. "We need to talk," Hyun said, walking into the room. "The Galactic Council meeting is in 2 hours. You need to be prepared." "Prepared for what?" "For everything. Some species are calling this a miracle. Others think humans are trying to take over the galaxy through breeding. There are conspiracy theories everywhere." Hyun sat down heavily. "This is bigger than you know, Minho. If human genetics can save the Ethon, maybe they can save other dying species too. You've become the most important human alive." Minho's stomach dropped. "I don't want to be important. I just want to understand what happened." "Then let's talk to someone who might know." They found Dr. Sora in the medical wing. She was a human doctor who had been studying alien biology for 15 years. She had arrived on the first transport after the news broke. Now she was looking at scans and data with an expression of pure wonder. "This is incredible," she said when they walked in. "Human DNA is like a universal adapter. Most species in the galaxy have evolved to be very specialized. They're perfect at what they do, but they've lost the ability to change. Humans are different. We're still flexible, still adapting. That flexibility is what triggered the pregnancy." "So any human could do this?" Minho asked. "Theoretically, yes, but it would depend on compatibility. You and Queen Vyra just happen to be a perfect match." Sora pulled up an image on her screen. "Look at this. The baby has both human and Ethon DNA, but they're working together instead of fighting. This child is going to be something new, something amazing." The Galactic Council meeting was held in a huge virtual chamber. Representatives from 50 different species appeared as holograms around a circular table. Minho stood next to Vera, feeling very small. She wore her full royal armor and crown. Her hand rested on her stomach in a protective gesture. The council leader, an old being made of what looked like living crystal, spoke first. "We are here to discuss the unprecedented situation on Ethon Prime. Queen Vyra, please explain." Vyra stood tall. Her voice was strong and clear. "For 50 years, my people have been dying. We tried everything. The best scientists, the best doctors, the most powerful medicine. Nothing worked. Then this young human participated in our bonding ritual, and everything changed. I am pregnant. My people have hope again. This is not a political conspiracy. This is survival." "But what about other species?" asked a representative with too many eyes. "If humans can do this, we all want their help. My people are dying too." "Mine as well," said another voice. "And mine." The room erupted in voices. Everyone was talking at once. Minho felt overwhelmed. The council leader raised one crystalline hand, and everyone went quiet. "The human will speak," the leader said. All eyes turned to Minho. He took a deep breath. "I'm just a scientist. I didn't plan any of this. But if we can help other species, we should. Not through force or politics, through careful study and willing cooperation. We need to understand what happened before we try to repeat it." Vyra looked at him with something like pride in her eyes. The meeting went on for hours. Finally, they reached a decision. Earth would establish a research program. Other species could apply for help, but everything would be voluntary and regulated. No forced breeding programs, no genetic experiments without consent. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. After the meeting, Vera led Minho to a private garden in the palace. Real plants grew here, not the artificial ones in the rest of the city. A small fountain bubbled in the center. They sat on a bench together. "Thank you for what you said in there," Vira said quietly. "You could have run away from all this. Instead, you stayed and helped." "I couldn't leave you to face that alone," Minho said. He surprised himself with how true it was. Vera turned to look at him. "Tell me about Earth, about human families. I want to understand what kind of culture created someone like you." So Minho told her about Earth, about his parents and his sister Hana, who was a pilot, about how humans valued choice and freedom, about how they celebrated when babies were born and mourned when people died, about love and marriage and all the messy, complicated ways humans formed families. Vera listened to everything. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "On Ethan, we mate for duty," she finally said. "Royal marriages are arranged for political benefit. I never expected to have a child at all, let alone with someone I—" She paused. "Someone I actually like talking to." Minho felt his face get warm. "I like talking to you, too." Over the next few weeks, they spent a lot of time together. Minho taught Vira about human emotions and vulnerability. She taught him about Ethan honor and the weight of leadership. He showed her funny videos from Earth. She showed him ancient Ethan battle techniques. Slowly, carefully, they became friends. But not everyone was happy about the situation. Prince Kale, Vira's younger brother, watched them with suspicious eyes. General Vara, who commanded the Ethan military, made comments about humans being weak. And in the shadows, other forces were moving. One night, Minho was walking back to his room when someone grabbed him from behind. A hand covered his mouth. He struggled, but whoever held him was incredibly strong. They dragged him into a dark corridor. "Listen carefully." "Human," a rough voice whispered in his ear. "There are people who don't want this baby to be born. They think you're poisoning our bloodline. Watch your back." Then they let him go and disappeared into the darkness. Minho stood there, breathing hard, his heart racing. He ran straight to Vira's chambers and told her what happened. Her face went cold with anger. "Kale," she hissed, "or someone working for him. He thinks he should be heir to the throne." "What do we do?" Vera's hand went to her stomach. "We protect our child, and we find out who's behind this." That night, Minho couldn't sleep. He lay in bed thinking about everything. A month ago, he was just a scientist looking at alien cells under a microscope. Now he was going to be a father. Now someone wanted him dead. Now he was somehow caught up in alien politics and galactic history. But when he thought about Vira's smile when she talked about the baby, when he remembered how her whole face lit up with hope, he knew he couldn't leave. Whatever happened next, he was in this completely. In her own room, Vera stood by the window and looked at the stars. Her hand rested on her stomach where a tiny life was growing. For the first time in her long life, she felt something she didn't fully understand. The humans had a word for it. Minho had taught her. Love. She was falling in love with the strange, gentle human who had given her everything she thought she could never have. And that scared her more than any enemy army ever had. 3 months had passed since that night in the ceremony room. Minho had learned that Ethan pregnancies moved much faster than human ones. Dr. Sora said the baby would be born in just 6 months total. Vera was already showing, her armor replaced with flowing robes that accommodated her growing belly. Minho spent his days in the palace library, studying everything he could about Ethan biology and culture. Dr. Junho had arrived from Earth, a brilliant geneticist who wanted to understand every detail of this miracle pregnancy. But Minho found himself less interested in the science and more interested in just being near Vira. She was different now. Softer somehow, but also fiercer. She had always been a powerful queen, but now she was a mother protecting her child. Minho watched her lead council meetings with one hand on her stomach, making decisions that would shape her people's future. "You're staring again," Vira said one afternoon. They were in her private garden, the one place she could truly relax. Minho felt his face heat up. "Sorry, I was just thinking." "About what?" She sat down carefully on the bench, adjusting her robes. "About how different you are from what I expected. When I first saw you on that throne, you seemed so cold and distant. But you're not. You're warm and funny and kind." Vera smiled. "I had to be cold. A queen can't show weakness. But with you?" She reached out and took his hand. "With you, I can just be Vira." Their fingers intertwined. Minho felt his heart beat faster. Over these months, something had grown between them. Something that went beyond duty or biology or diplomatic necessity. "Vira, I need to tell you something," Minho started. But a loud alarm cut him off. Red lights flashed throughout the palace. Armed guards ran past the garden entrance. Vera stood up immediately, her warrior instincts taking over. "Stay here," she commanded, but Minho followed her anyway. They found General Vara in the command center, barking orders at soldiers. "What's happening?" Vira demanded. "An attack, Your Majesty. Explosives in the East Wing. 3 guards injured." Vara's expression was grim. "This was coordinated, professional." Prince Kale rushed in, looking panicked. "Sister, are you hurt? Is the baby—" "We're fine," Vira said coldly. "Where were you when this happened?" "In my chambers. I came as soon as I heard." Kale's eyes flickered to Minho. "This is because of him. Because of what you're doing. Some of our people think you're betraying Ethon values." "Some of our people are fools," Vira snapped. "This baby is our future. Anyone who doesn't see that is blind." For the next hour, they reviewed security footage and damage reports. The attackers had gotten away, but they left a message written on a wall in Ethan's script. It said, "Keep our blood pure." Minho felt sick. People wanted to kill an unborn baby just because it was different. That night, extra guards were posted outside Vera's chambers. Minho insisted on staying close, setting up a cot in the room next to hers. He couldn't sleep. Every sound made him jump. Around midnight, he heard soft crying from Vera's room. He knocked gently. "Vera, can I come in?" "Yes," came her quiet reply. He found her sitting on her bed, tears running down her face. Her hands cradled her belly protectively. In that moment, she didn't look like a powerful queen. She looked like a scared mother. "I've led armies," she said, her voice breaking. "I've fought in wars. I've made impossible decisions, but I've never been this frightened. What if they hurt our baby? What if I can't protect her?" "Her?" Minho sat down beside her. "You know it's a girl." Vira nodded, a small smile breaking through her tears. "The doctors confirmed it today, a daughter." She looked at him. "I wanted to tell you somewhere special, not like this." Minho put his arm around her shoulders. She leaned into him, and he felt her whole body shaking. "We'll protect her," he promised. "All of us. You're not alone in this." "I know. But Minho, I'm not just scared for her safety. I'm scared I'll be a terrible mother. I don't know how to be soft, how to be gentle, how to love without duty being part of it." "You already know how," Minho said softly. "You're doing it right now." Vira turned to look at him. Their faces were very close. "The humans have a concept," she whispered. "Love. You told me about it. I think that's what I feel when I look at you." Minho's breath caught. "I feel it too. I've been feeling it for weeks now. I was just afraid to say it." "Why?" Because you're a queen and I'm just a scientist from a small planet. Because this whole situation is already complicated enough. Because I didn't want to make you feel obligated to—" She kissed him. It was gentle and sweet, and nothing like what he expected from a warrior queen. When they pulled apart, they were both smiling. "I'm not obligated," Vira said firmly. "I choose this. I choose you. Not because you're the father of my child. Because you make me laugh. Because you see me as more than a crown. Because you taught me that strength and gentleness can exist together." They held each other in the quiet darkness. Two people from different worlds who had found something unexpected and precious. The next morning brought new problems. Dr. Junho burst into the breakfast room with urgent news. "We've intercepted intelligence reports. The Korvax Dominion is interested in the pregnancy." "The Korvax?" Vira's expression darkened. "They're our oldest enemies." Junho nodded. "They want to study the baby, replicate the pregnancy for their own purposes. They see it as a weapon, a way to create super soldiers." "Over my dead body," Vira growled. "That might be what they're planning," General Vara said, entering the room. "My spies report Korvax ships gathering at the border. This isn't just about extremists in our own society anymore. We're facing an external threat." Commander Taiho joined them via hologram from his ship orbiting the planet. "Earth is sending reinforcements. Fleet Admiral Daiho is bringing a full battle group. We won't let them take the baby." "Neither will we," Vara said. "The Ethon military stands ready." Over the next few days, preparations were made for possible war. Minho watched as Vira transformed back into the cold, calculating queen he had first met. But now he understood. It wasn't coldness. It was focus. She was protecting their daughter with everything she had. One evening, Minho found her in the armory, looking at her old battle armor. Her hand traced the dents and scratches from past fights. "I can't wear this anymore," she said quietly. "Not with this belly. I'll have to command from the palace if fighting starts." "You don't have to command at all," Minho said. "Let the generals handle it. You need to rest and stay safe." Vira laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "You sound like Dr. Sora, but I'm not just a pregnant woman. I'm a queen. My people need to see me strong." "They need to see you alive," Minho said firmly. "What good is a dead queen to them?" They argued about it for a while, but eventually Vira agreed to stay protected. It was one of the hardest decisions she'd ever made. That night, something miraculous happened. Vera was resting in bed when she suddenly gasped. Minho, who was reading nearby, jumped up in alarm. "What's wrong? Is it the baby?" "Give me your hand," Vira said, her eyes wide with wonder. Minho placed his hand on her belly, and then he felt it. A tiny push. The baby was moving. "She's kicking," Vira whispered, and tears started rolling down her face again. Happy tears this time. "She's real. She's really in there." Minho felt his own eyes water. "She's strong, just like her mother." They sat like that for a long time, feeling their daughter move and kick, both of them laughing and crying. For a few perfect moments, there was no war brewing, no threats, no political complications. Just two parents falling in love with their unborn child. But reality came crashing back in the morning. An urgent message arrived from Earth intelligence. The Korvax were definitely planning something. A full invasion of Ethon Prime. They wanted to capture Vira while she was pregnant and study both her and the baby. "How long do we have?" Vira asked, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. 2 weeks. "Maybe 3, Admiral Daiho reported. Minho looked at Vira's belly. At 3 months along, she still had 3 months to go before the baby was due. There was no way to speed that up, which meant they had to hold off an invasion while protecting a pregnant queen. "Then we prepare," Vira said. "We turn this planet into a fortress, and we show the Korvax what happens when they threaten an Ethon child." Minho had never seen her look so fierce or so beautiful. The Korvax came exactly 2 weeks later, just as the intelligence reports predicted. Their ships appeared in the sky like dark clouds, blocking out the red sun. Minho stood in the palace command center, watching the screens as hundreds of enemy vessels surrounded the planet. Admiral Deho's voice crackled through the speakers. "All human ships in position. We're ready when you are, Your Majesty." Vira stood at the center of the room, one hand on her swollen belly, the other pointing at tactical displays. She was 5 months pregnant now, and the baby was getting bigger every day, but her mind was sharp as ever. "Wait for them to make the first move," she commanded. "I want them marked as the aggressors in all official records." Minho's sister Hana was out there somewhere, piloting one of the human fighters. The thought made his stomach clench with worry. When he'd spoken to her before the battle, she had just grinned. "Relax, little brother," she'd said. "I'm the best pilot in the fleet. Besides, I need to protect my niece, right?" Now those ships were facing an enemy that outnumbered them 3-1. The Korvax were reptilian beings, even more aggressive than the Ethon, with technology designed purely for conquest. Their leader, Warlord Threx, appeared on the main screen. He looked like a dragon standing upright, with red scales and black eyes. "Queen Vira," he said, his voice like gravel grinding together. "Surrender the human and yourself. We only want to study the child. No one needs to die today." "You think I'll give you my daughter?" Vira's voice was cold and deadly. "You don't know what a mother's love means, Threx. Let me teach you." She cut the transmission and gave the order. "All forces, engage." The battle began. Minho watched helplessly as ships fired at each other, as explosions lit up the sky, as good people died fighting for his daughter's safety. He had never felt so useless. "I should be out there," he said desperately. "I should be doing something." "You are doing something," Vira said, not taking her eyes off the battle displays. "You're staying safe. You're making sure that if something happens to me, our daughter still has a father." The battle raged for hours. The human ships were faster and more unpredictable. They flew in patterns the Korvax couldn't anticipate, breaking formation and regrouping in ways that seemed random but were actually carefully planned chaos. The Ethon ships were powerful and strong, taking hits that would destroy other vessels and firing back with devastating weapons. But the Korvax kept coming. For every ship destroyed, 2 more took its place. "They're trying to wear us down," General Vera said grimly. "Classic siege tactics." Then disaster struck. A group of Korvax soldiers broke through the planetary defenses and landed near the palace. Alarms blared. Guards rushed to defensive positions. "Your Majesty, you need to evacuate," Commander Taiho said urgently. He had come down to the planet to coordinate the ground defense. "We have a secure bunker." "No," Vira said. "If I run, it shows weakness. We hold the palace." "Vira, please," Minho begged. "Think about the baby." She looked at him, her golden eyes softening for just a moment. "I am thinking about her. What kind of queen runs and hides? What kind of mother doesn't fight for her child?" Before Minho could argue more, the palace shook. Explosions echoed through the halls. The Korvax were inside. "Get her out of here," Taiho shouted to his guards. Everything happened so fast. Guards surrounded Vira and Minho, rushing them through secret passages. They could hear fighting behind them, the sounds of weapons firing and people shouting. They ran through tunnels that Minho didn't know existed, going deeper and deeper under the palace. But the Korvax had done their homework. They knew about these tunnels, too. A group of enemy soldiers appeared ahead, weapons raised. Behind them, more Korvax blocked their retreat. They were trapped. The guards fought bravely but were outnumbered. One by one, they fell. Vira tried to fight too, but she was pregnant and slower than usual. A Korvax soldier hit her hard, and she fell to the ground with a cry of pain. "Vyra!" Minho rushed to her side. Rage filled him. Rage like he'd never felt before. This was his family they were hurting. His love. His daughter. He grabbed a fallen guard's weapon, something that looked like a metal staff. He had no training, no combat experience, but he had read hundreds of books. He knew human history. He knew that sometimes the underdog won through pure, desperate creativity. He swung the staff low, hitting a Korvax soldier's legs. The alien fell. Minho grabbed his weapon and threw it at another soldier's face. He kicked, bit, scratched, using every dirty trick he'd ever read about. The Korvax were bigger and stronger, but they fought with predictable military precision. Minho fought like a cornered animal. "Fall back!" he heard someone shout. The Korvax were retreating, confused by this small human's ferocious defense. But the moment of victory was short. Vyra was hurt. She was bleeding, her face pale. "The baby!" she gasped. "Something's wrong, I can feel it." No, Minho said, panic flooding through him. "It's too early. You're only 5 months along." "The baby doesn't care about schedules," Vyra said through gritted teeth. "She's coming now." They were alone in a dark tunnel, far from any medical help. Vyra was going into early labor, and Minho had no idea what to do. His hands were shaking so hard he could barely think. "Breathe," he told Vyra, trying to remember everything Dr. Sora had taught him. "Just breathe. I'm here. I've got you." Hours passed, the longest hours of Minho's life. Above them, the battle continued. Down here, in this dark tunnel, Vera screamed and cried and pushed. Minho held her hand, whispered encouragement, and tried not to show how terrified he was. "I can't," Vera sobbed at one point. "I'm not strong enough." "You're the strongest person I know," Minho said firmly. "You're a warrior queen and an amazing mother. You can do this. We can do this together." Finally, after what felt like forever, he heard it. A tiny cry. The most beautiful sound in the universe. Minho caught the baby in his hands, this small, perfect being covered in silver and pink. She had her mother's golden eyes and her father's nose. Scales ran down her tiny arms, but her hands were soft like a human's. She was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. "It's a girl," he said, tears streaming down his face. "She's perfect. She's absolutely perfect." Vyra reached for her daughter with trembling hands. The moment the baby touched her skin, something happened. The baby let out a strange sound, not quite a cry, but more like a musical note. And that note seemed to ripple through the air, through the walls, through everything. Above ground, something miraculous was happening. Ethon women across the planet suddenly clutched their stomachs, gasping in surprise. The doctors monitoring them saw something impossible on their screens. Dormant reproductive systems were activating. Eggs that had been frozen for decades were suddenly viable again. The baby wasn't just alive. She was broadcasting some kind of biological signal, a genetic catalyst that was waking up the fertility in all Ethon women. In the command center, where the battle still raged, General Vara received report after report. "Medical centers are flooded with women showing signs of fertility." "What's happening?" "It's spreading across the whole planet." On the screen, even Warlord Threx looked confused. His own medical officers were reporting the same phenomenon on the Korvax ships. The baby's signal was so powerful it was affecting other species, too. "What kind of child is this?" Threx whispered, and for the first time, he looked afraid. Back in the tunnel, Minho and Vera didn't know any of this yet. They only knew that their daughter was alive and healthy against all odds. Vera held the baby close, crying and laughing at the same time. "Hello, little one," she whispered. "I'm your mother, and that wonderful man there is your father. We love you so much already." The baby made small cooing sounds and gripped Vyra's finger with surprising strength. She needs a name, Minho said softly. Vira looked up at him. In your language, what's the word for a beautiful flower that grows in difficult places? A lily, Minho said. We call it a lily. Or in Korean, nari. Nari, Vira repeated, testing the name. She smiled. It's perfect. Our little Nari, growing strong despite everything trying to stop her. Footsteps echoed in the tunnel. Minho grabbed the weapon again, ready to protect his family. But it was Taiho and a group of human soldiers. We've been looking everywhere for you, Taiho said, then stopped when he saw the baby. His face broke into a huge smile. Is that? Our daughter, Minho said proudly. Nari. She was born about 20 minutes ago. Then that explains it, Taiho said. The Korvax are retreating, all of them. They're running away like they've seen a ghost. What? Why? We don't know exactly, but something happened when the baby was born. Some kind of energy pulse. It's affecting fertility in species across the planet. The medical teams are going crazy trying to understand it. Taiho shook his head in wonder. Your daughter didn't just survive, she might have saved multiple species. Vera looked down at Nari, this tiny baby who had already changed the galaxy. She's special, she said softly. I knew she would be. They made their way back to the surface carefully. Vira was weak from the birth, and Minho carried Nari wrapped in his jacket. When they emerged from the tunnels into the palace gardens, they found people waiting. Ethan citizens, human soldiers, even members of other species who had been on the planet. They all knelt when they saw the baby, not because they were ordered to, but because they understood they were witnessing something historic, the first child of two worlds, the little girl who had brought hope back to the dying races of the galaxy. Minho looked at Vera, who looked back at him with love and pride and exhaustion. They had survived. Their daughter was here, and somehow, impossibly, everything was going to be okay. The Korvax Dominion officially surrendered 3 days after Nari's birth. Warlord Threx appeared on every screen across the galaxy and admitted defeat. He looked humbled, almost respectful. We came to capture a weapon, he said in his rough voice. But what we found was something we don't understand, something sacred. The child's power is not meant for war. We were wrong to try. The Galactic Council held an emergency session. Representatives from species all across the galaxy wanted to talk about what happened. The baby's biological signal had spread farther than anyone expected. Reports were coming in from planets light years away. Species that hadn't had children in generations were suddenly showing signs of renewed fertility. Minho stood before the council with Nari in his arms. Vira stood beside him, still recovering but refusing to miss this moment. The baby slept peacefully, unaware that she was the center of galactic attention. The child is a gift, said the council leader. But gifts can be dangerous if misused. We must establish protocols. Agreed, Vira said firmly. No one touches my daughter except for peaceful research that she consents to when she's old enough to consent. And any species seeking help from humanity must go through proper channels. Ambassador Hyun stepped forward. Earth proposes the Genesis program, a carefully managed initiative to help dying species. All participation will be voluntary. All genetic sharing will be regulated. We want to help, but we won't be used. After days of debate, the council agreed. Earth became the center of this new program. Scientists from around the galaxy came to study in human labs. Partnerships were formed. Rules were written. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. During all this, Minho barely slept. He spent his time caring for Nari, learning how to feed her and change her and comfort her when she cried. She was a hybrid, needing a special mixture of human and ethon nutrients. But she was healthy and growing stronger every day. You're a natural father, Vira said one evening, watching him rock Nari to sleep. I thought I would need to teach you everything, but you just know what to do. I don't know anything, Minho admitted. I'm terrified every second that I'll mess something up, but then she looks at me with those golden eyes, and I just want to give her everything good in the universe. Vyra smiled. That's exactly what being a parent means. 1 month after Nari's birth, Vyra made an announcement that shocked everyone. She wanted to marry Minho in a ceremony that combined human and Ethon traditions. You don't have to do this, Minho told her privately. We're already parents. We already love each other. A ceremony doesn't change that. It changes everything, Vyra said. I want the galaxy to know that you're not just the father of my child. You're my partner, my equal, my choice. She took his hands. I want to marry you because I love you. Is that reason enough? Minho felt tears in his eyes. It's the best reason in the universe. The wedding was held in the palace gardens under the red sky of Ethan Prime. Humans and Ethon stood side by side as witnesses. Minho wore traditional Korean wedding clothes that his mother had sent from Earth. Vyra wore a dress that mixed Ethon armor with flowing white fabric. She looked like a warrior goddess. High Priestess Nira performed the ceremony, speaking words in both languages. They exchanged vows, promising to support each other, to raise their daughter together, to face whatever came next as a team. When they kissed, the crowd erupted in cheers. Humans and aliens celebrating together. It was a moment of pure joy after so much fear and fighting. At the reception, Minho's sister Hana gave a speech. When Minho left for this mission, I told him to have an adventure. I didn't expect him to fall in love with a queen, have a baby that saved the galaxy, and start an interstellar program. But that's my brother. He never does anything halfway. Everyone laughed, even Vera, who was learning to appreciate human humor. Yuna, watching via hologram from Earth, wiped tears from her eyes. I'm so happy for you, Minho. You found something most people search their whole lives for. Over the next year, things changed rapidly. The Ethon began experiencing their first baby boom in generations. Within months, dozens of Ethon women were pregnant. The medical centers were overwhelmed with happy news. The Genesis program grew too. Carefully, slowly, humans began working with other species. Not every match worked. Some genetics were just too different, but enough worked that hope spread across the galaxy. Dying races had a chance now. Minho was offered the position of Director of Xenogenetic Research. It came with a huge salary and massive prestige. He turned it down. I want to be a father first, he told them. Everything else is secondary. Instead, he became a consultant, working from home and spending most of his time with Nari. Vyra continued ruling the Ethon Empire, but she made changes. She established maternity leave policies. She built playgrounds and schools. She shifted from a culture of pure warriors to one that valued families and children. Our daughter changed everything, she told her council, not just biologically. She showed us that new life and new ideas are worth celebrating, not fearing. Prince Kale, who had been so suspicious at first, became Nari's favorite uncle. He had apologized for his earlier doubts and proven himself loyal. General Vara retired and opened a combat training school where she taught both Ethon and human children. 3 years after Nari's birth, Vyra was pregnant again, and then a year after that, she had another child. This time, it was a boy. They named him Jay, a simple Korean name that meant respect and honor. The medical teams learned that each pregnancy between Minho and Vera released a smaller version of that fertility signal. It wasn't as powerful as Nari's first cry, but it helped maintain the baby boom across Ethon society. 5 years after that fateful ceremony, Minho stood in the kitchen of their home trying to make Korean food. Nari, now 5 years old and impossibly smart, sat on the counter watching him. "Papa, why do you make everything so spicy?" she asked in perfect Korean. She also spoke Ethan English and 3 other galactic languages. "Because spicy food is good for you," Minho said, though he knew that was definitely not true. "Mama says you're trying to kill us with your cooking." "Your mama is exaggerating." Vira walked in carrying Jay on her hip and their newest baby, a daughter named Bora, in her other arm. She had retired from being queen 2 years ago, passing the crown to a council of elected leaders. Now she was just Vira, a mother and wife who occasionally consulted on military matters. "I heard my name," she said, kissing Minho's cheek. "Are you making that red soup again?" "It's called kimchi stew, and yes," Nari giggled. "Mama's scared." "Your mama fought in wars and defeated warlords. She's not scared of soup." But Vera was eyeing the pot nervously. They sat down to eat as a family. Nari talked about her day at school, where she learned alongside both human and Ethan children. Jay babbled in his high chair. Bora slept peacefully in Vera's arms. Minho looked around the table and felt overwhelming gratitude. He had come to this planet as a nervous scientist on a routine mission. He had found love, purpose, and a family beyond his wildest dreams. "What are you thinking about?" Vira asked, noticing his expression. "Just how lucky I am. How one ceremony changed my entire life." "Changed both our lives," Vera corrected. She reached across the table and took his hand. "And I would do it again in a heartbeat." That night, after the children were in bed, Minho and Vera stood on their balcony looking at the stars. Ships flew overhead, carrying scientists and diplomats and families between worlds. The galaxy was more connected than ever before. "Did you ever imagine this?" Vira asked. "When you first arrived here, did you think any of this was possible?" "No," Minho admitted. "I thought I would look at some alien cells, attend some boring meetings, and go home. I never imagined I would fall in love with a queen, or that our daughter would change history." "She's upstairs asking for another bedtime story, by the way." Minho laughed. "The child who saved the galaxy still needs her papa to read her stories about princesses." "She's just a little girl," Vira said softly. "That's what I love most. Despite everything she is and everything she's done, she's still just our little girl who needs bedtime stories and hugs." They went back inside together. Minho read Nari a story about a brave explorer who traveled to distant worlds. Nari fell asleep halfway through, her hand holding his finger. In the other room, Vera sang an old Ethan lullaby to the younger children. Her voice was soft and gentle, nothing like the commanding tone she once used as queen. Later, as Minho and Vera lay in bed together, she said, "Earth just sent another request for genetic consultations. 4 species this time." "We'll review them tomorrow," Minho said, pulling her close. "Tonight we're just us, just a family." "Just a family," Vira agreed, smiling in the darkness. "I never knew those 3 words could mean everything." Outside their window, the stars shone bright. Ships continued their journeys between worlds. In medical centers across the galaxy, new babies were being born to species that had nearly gone extinct. In schools and parks and homes, children of different species played together, learning that differences could be celebrated rather than feared. And it had all started with one scared human scientist and one desperate alien queen who took a chance on an ancient ceremony. They had created not just a family, but a future. A future where humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy wasn't their technology or their weapons, but their ability to connect, to adapt, and to love without boundaries. Minho fell asleep with a smile on his face, Vira in his arms, and his children safe down the hall. He had gone to the stars looking for knowledge. Instead, he had found something infinitely more valuable. He had found home.